I'm well, Sally. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All right, so we are talking about this is our office hour segment where we answer the nitty-gritty questions. And today we're talking about whether it's too late to apply to college if you are a senior. Now, I will admit that when I talk to a senior at this date who has not started applying anywhere, I do get a little jolt of panic. But the truth is that there are still options. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's actually lots of options, more than I realized. And in preparing for our conversation today, I did a little bit of research and realized that there are actually several hundred colleges in the US and overseas that are still accepting applications from seniors. Overseas might be a little bit challenging right now given the pandemic, but
Mhm.
there are lots of options. I, like you, get a little bit nervous to say, oh, what's out there? But I was pleasantly surprised to see the availability for seniors who are thinking about applying to college now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I checked just the common application, and I'm going to ask you to go in, in just a second into how students can find colleges that are still available. But I checked in one place, and I found 583 colleges that are clearly have later deadlines. So I was pretty excited for students about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
what are you suggesting for students who are in this position?
So I actually have three resources that I looked into that were really helpful in finding colleges that are still accepting applications. The first that I looked at was the Common Application. So I logged into my Common Application account, and if a student doesn't have a Common App account yet, they can very easily create one. And within the application, there's a college search tab. And what it has filters. I mean, you could type in a specific college name to look and see when its deadline is, but there are also filters that you can search on. And there are a lot of filters. It's everything from country, US state, if you're looking for a specific state, distance from home, so you would put in your zip code, the term that you're looking to apply. So for seniors, it's most likely fall of 2021. Um, the deadline or after, so you can actually put in a specific date. You can also decide if you're looking for schools that don't have an application fee if you are a domestic student, so a US resident, or if you're an international student, you're looking to see if there's a fee that's waived for international students applying. You can also check to see if the college requires either the personal statement, which is the college essay that goes along with the common application, or if they have any college specific essays that need to be written, and even if they require letters of recommendation. So you can really narrow that search to find out what colleges are still accepting applications through the Common App. And what I did is I did a simple search and I just said with deadlines either today or after today. And I came up with 680 colleges that were still accepting applications through the Common App. Um, the other thing, so that was really helpful to know that there one place you could find a lot of different schools. The other resource that I looked at was on the NACAC website. So NACAC is short for the National Association for College Admission Counseling. And I did a quick search that said NACAC colleges still accepting applications. That was my Google search, and it too the site that popped up, it's the college openings update, and NACAC it's publishes this. It's a voluntary list of colleges that colleges have volunteered their information to say that yes, they're still accepting applications, and there were a lot. So what I did was I filtered just on New York State. That's the state that I grew up in, and I know that there are a lot of colleges in New York. So I just filtered to see what came up. And there were, let me check, there were a whole list of colleges that came up in New York. I think there were close to 60 that were listed, and two surprised me. One was Fordham University, and the other was Syracuse
Wow.
University, because I know their deadlines have passed.
Mhm.
So I went onto their websites to check to see if the information was accurate, and they both had notes that said, while our application deadline has passed, we're still accepting applications. Now, for Syracuse, it said we're still accepting applications on on um, on an available basis. And then Fordham said, we're still accepting applications, but we can't guarantee that you'll have your decision by April 1st, which is
Mhm.
kind of the date by which you hear from colleges that have a deadline.
Mhm.
So I was surprised to see that because I knew they had deadlines. But what was most interesting for me for those two resources is that most of the colleges on the list have offer rolling admissions. So they
Mhm.
don't have a deadline. They're making decisions as they're receiving applications. So while certain majors might be filling up, though they're more popular, um, may have received a lot of applications already, there are still opportunities to apply to many, many schools, some small, some quite large. I mean, just two as an example, um, Arizona State University in
Mhm.
Arizona and Clemson on the East Coast, they're both use rolling admissions. So
Mhm.
students can still apply. And Eckerd College in Florida, which has a great marine science program, also offers rolling admission. So
Mhm.
if you're just starting to think about the college process now or ready to submit your applications now, there are still options. Um, and then the last resource, which I found was really the most helpful, was I took out the NACAC from the search and I just searched on colleges that are still accepting applications. And the College Board Big Future site
Mhm.
came up and it lists colleges that are still accepting applications by deadline date.
Mhm.
So, there was a single school that had an application deadline of yesterday, and then it listed all the schools that have deadlines of February 15th, March 1st, and it just continued on and on. I think several of those schools that you might have a deadline of August 10th, that actually might be rolling, and they might give a deadline to indicate that's when classes start or
Mhm.
something like that. But it was a lot easier to find really good options. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense. Like when I worked at Whittier, we had a rolling deadline, and there were certainly advantages to applying early. I mean, I don't want some junior to listen to this and say, "Cool, I have a lot of time." I mean, at Whittier, we had scholarships that were limited to students who were applying earlier. So, I mean, there were scholarships that weren't, but it was to your advantage to get the application in, you know, by January 1, definitely. And there was even some scholarships that were like October 15th when I worked there. But absolutely, there are a lot of options and some very good ones, as you highlighted. I mean,
Hmm.
Fordham and Syracuse, these are great schools. These are nationally known institutions. So, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, uh,
and oh, I just want to say there were a few colleges that I was surprised that their deadlines were as late as they were. For February 15th, there were three schools that I've talked to students and families about quite recently. Two small liberal arts colleges, Allegheny and the College of Worcester, both fantastic options. They're within the list of colleges that change lives,
mhm.
and they're smaller. But if you're looking for a medium-sized university, College of Charleston, which has almost 10,000 undergrads, that has a February 15th deadline as well. So, there are schools out there that if they were on your radar, but you may have taken them off at some point, you might want to take a closer look again because they're still options.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Joy. That was really helpful.
Sure. Happy
Okay.
to talk to you, Sally.
All right, so we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Chrissy Foran about how to understand award letters.